G'day listeners and welcome to another episode of the Scouting Australia podcast, powered by Australian Property Scout Buyers Agency. I'm your host, Sammy Gordon, and today, guys, we have an extremely special episode. I normally say very special. Today is extremely special. That is because flown in direct from the southern state of Mordor is Big Jimmy Ibrahim. Mate, welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much. Good to be back.
Great to have you back. Now, mate, the reason I am extremely excited today...
Why's that?
...is we are dissecting your portfolio. And I'm very excited to do it, mate. So welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you. You know what? It's not very often that I get a bit nervous on this show, especially hanging out with you. It's very easy to be calm. Contrary to popular belief, mind you. But when you're looking at your own portfolio, and I like interviewing people and I like discussing other people's stories. But when the focus turns on you, it does feel a bit awkward and a bit uncomfortable. So,
mate, I know
a little bit nervous.
I've been asking you for a little while to do this, and I know you've kind of been putting it off and not wanting to do it for quite a while. But man, I just think it's a really inspiring sort of backstory, and it allows people to get a real insight into you and who you are and what you've done. And man, all jokes aside, like you're one of my best mates, mate. Honestly, I love you as much as I fucking rip you and love to pull your hair and kick you in the face and all the rest of it, mate.
Literally,
we have a great time doing all this stuff. But mate, you've done exceptionally well from a portfolio side, man. It's very, very respectable. So I'm super excited to jump into this, man, and unpack it, mate. Peel all these onion layers back. I don't know what we'll find on the inside of you, but it's gonna be something. I don't think it'll be gold, but there'll be some good stuff in there.
Might be a few battle scars, but we'll see how we go.
Plenty of those on the outside, mate.
Yeah,
but,
plenty of those. But I suppose I want people to get a lot of value out of today, and if we can help people in any way, then that'll be worth it. Because you're right, I don't really like talking about 100%
stuff. Man, I get you completely. And I was always the same. So when I started out, man, the reason I actually struggled for my first few years as a BA was because I never really got out and told people what I'd done as an investor. And I think when I did that, and it was something I kept quite close to the chest, just because there's a little bit, throwing stones sort of thing. You cop a little bit of stuff when you're early on, you're building quite well. So I tried to keep a lot of stuff close to the chest. I know you did the same thing. But yeah, man, it's just one of those things that I think now most people know you've got a pretty good portfolio. You've done well. You've got to some pretty impressive milestones within your own portfolio as well, both from a dollar value and a number wise and a passive income, point of view as well. So, mate, I know you're normally the big question asker to get a bit of gold out of my side, but, mate, I'm looking forward to being the big question asker this time and trying to find some gold somewhere over that side. I'm hoping there's a lot of silver. I'm hoping to get a little bit of gold. I might get some copper.
I'll do my best.
We'll see how we go. But, mate, let's jump into it, man. Let's just kind of start. You've got some funny stories you've kind of passed on down the track with burning down houses or supposedly, suspiciously burnt down houses.
My name is Ibrahim.
But, mate, there's some good stuff there. Let's go all the way back to the start, even in terms of essentially even punch me through like a basic upbringing of where you've come from, what got you into property, what was your background before property, mate. Give the listeners all the info.
Well, mate, obviously I'm from Melbourne, the youngest of 4 kids. We grew up in my dad's Lebanese, mum's Italian. Yeah.
Wow.
Had the best of both foods. Definitely didn't go hungry. But when it came to sort of finance and that sort of thing, we were never really financially well off.
Yep.
We weren't poor. We had everything that we could want. But my old man, I suppose, didn't really have a lot of guides from my old man. Didn't have a lot of influence. Yeah. And I suppose as kids, we just sort of grew up trying to do the best we could. And we knew that if we were going to make anything of ourselves, it was going to be up to us. And, you get a lot of love from your parents and support in that sense. But all of our siblings knew quickly early on. I'm not here to bag out my parents because, I love my old man, but he lost his dad when he was very young, and his brothers were his influence, and they didn't really point him probably in the right direction. So he never was ambitious.
Can I ask you on that as well? How, just out of curiosity, how successful is the rest of your family? Like you said, you're the youngest of 4. How have they done?
Yeah, they've all done really well. My oldest brother lives in Dallas, Texas with his family. So 3 kids. Yeah, he's doing well over there. They have a great life. They sell on Amazon full time, living at home, raising their kids. They're living the dream. My other brother lives in Sydney in Wollongong, in Corrimal.
Right. Yeah, it's like next suburb from me.
Fittest man in Corrimal, 10-time Ironman triathlete, so super healthy. Yeah,
really. I thought you were having a bit of a dig at me there for a second, but I was like, "Fuck, I'll give you that one."
It's not hard to be fitter than you.
It's not hard to be better looking than you dog.
But he's got 3 kids. He's in the fitness industry. Yep. My brother Jason.
That's impressive, man. What 10-time Ironman?
Well, actually, he's 9. He's about to do his 10th. Yeah, I think he did a half. Well, we went to New Zealand to do a full Ironman, and the race got cut in half.
Oh, okay.
So do you do you add that as
He
a
probably
full?
should have just done it twice, and then we could have said he did
probably
a
should
full
have done
one,
another
man.
lap.
And he'll have
Just done
double
another
didgeridoo. Yeah, come on, mate.
But yeah, into fitness. He's obviously got a great home.
Okay.
But really content. My brother Jason's probably the most level-headed.
Okay. But
so
super successful and from that side.
in the fitness side, absolutely.
From the fitness
super
side.
successful.
The other one over in Dallas, bloody selling on
Doing
Amazon,
well.
doing
They
well. And what about
live
the other
the
one?
dream. And my sister, she's done exceptionally well financially.
Yes.
They've got a pretty extensive portfolio, commercial and residential.
So you're the
8
most
digits.
You're the most underperforming asset in the family.
Probably, I am. I've always been the most ambitious I'm just not sounding cocky or anything, but I've always been the one that's taken the risks in the sense of they've all gone down a pretty conventional path, whereas I've chopped and changed a lot, searching for something more.
Yeah.
And my oldest brother always says, you should be the one that does the best because you're the youngest.
Yeah.
You've had the influence of everyone. There is zero excuses for you. So my oldest brother pretty much probably was a father figure to me.
Okay.
He was pretty hard on me, but brought the best out of me in that sense. And I suppose my siblings, they were probably the biggest influence from me. So,
and sorry, just to touch on one last thing you said there, I cut over it real quick, but you said your sister and her husband have got 8-figure portfolio as well.
Yeah.
What do they do?
My sister's always just been a really hard worker. She works for HPE, HP, Hewlett Packard. So she's in a global role working from home, and my brother-in-law, he's a plumber by trade.
Okay.
But they've just worked super hard.
That's awesome.
The tortoise gets, they eventually they've been grafting. And my sister, to be fair, and this is, I've brought
Did you
this
just call
up.
your sister a tortoise?
Well, she's the slow and steady.
Wow.
She's the slow and steady.
Yeah,
She's
yeah,
all,
yeah.
so and
Works
the compounding
hard.
effect.
Yeah,
This has
mate,
been 20 years in the making. Her and her husband have been together since they were 15. Right?
Wow.
Childhood sweethearts.
No way.
But I always get up my sister in the sense of, Jack, you got to enjoy life a bit more because we didn't have a lot of money growing up.
Yep.
She
quite fixated on it.
Well, she's not fixated. She just doesn't like spending money.
Super frugal.
So and to be fair, my sister at the age of 16, because when my parents divorced and separated, she was 15 or 16. So she actually was working as well as going to school, right? But she had a little part-time job, but she'd often help mum with the rent.
Wow. Okay.
That's a lot of responsibility for a 16-year-old.
So she's very used to working hard and then saving money and not spending everything.
So now, I mean, they're very financially secure, but she still doesn't go and treat herself as much as she should. And I think that's when we talk about your money story because that's entrenched into her. And I'm always trying to push her, Jack, go and enjoy it. Like, what are you doing? Enjoy it.
Yeah, it was really funny. This is your story, but just in terms of like that was exactly the same that my parents are very like they hang on to everything and they don't like to spend money and it was so frugal on everything and they'd go off you about spending anything. And I had that for ages. It was really hard for me to. You actually said to me multiple times, mate, you're doing all this. You've made all this money in property. Like you got to enjoy some of it, and you got to do these things. And it took me ages to get that out of myself. Not so much get it out because I think it's a good trait, but not so much to say that you also don't enjoy yourself for the hard work you put 100%. In as well. So but I actually think it's a very successful. It's a trait that a lot of very successful people have in them. And a really, really old saying is like someone that's a very, very wealthy person, like they still have the first dollar that they ever made because they're so frugal with what they make, right? So it's a very interesting concept, man. And I think it's a great point you've made there.
It's an interesting point though. So my parents pretty much didn't have a lot of cash, right? And I mean, they both, when they got divorced, they end up buying their own home. It's quite cheap back then when they got divorced. They bought their houses for the low 100,000s. Wow. My eldest brother actually paid off a lot of the debt of both of them.
Okay.
So my brother
this is Mr. Amazon.
Mr. Amazon himself. But my parents, the funny thing is, we often joke about this, that my parents are actually quite happy people.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people that we know that have a lot of money are actually quite miserable at their age.
Yeah.
And we always joke about this because my mum, for most of her life, she would have had less than 10K in her bank account.
Yeah, right.
And man, she's
very happy lady.
Yeah.
Happy. Yeah, okay. It's an interesting thing, You got to make sure you're enjoying it at the back end, not just super fixated and not enjoy that. It's all about the journey. You hear about a lot of these big people, make it really, all the rest of it. You got to enjoy the journey on the way through as well. Whatever you're doing, even if we're talking property and you're hating it, and it's all good to save yourself as much as you can as well, which I'm a massive advocate for. But you also got to enjoy life a little bit as well, right?
Well, man, they would enjoy the simple things, and I suppose. Sometimes if you don't want too much, you're happy and grateful for what you've got.
Yes.
And I've never forgotten that. So I always do keep that pretty close in front of mind. That regardless, there's no use chasing things and wanting more to be miserable.
Yes.
There's no use being the richest man in the graveyard. So there's been a lot of great positive things I got out of my parents. There's a few things that I wouldn't do. But man, they gave me absolutely everything. So a lot of my motivation to do well was to look after them and to give back to them. So and that's why I've sort of started the journey.
Mate, well done. Man, talking about, I guess, moving beyond that and then obviously moving into yourself as a young fella. I know you did, there's everything you take on, man, you seem to, you do quite well. You take everything by the bull by its horns and you have a good crack at everything. Man, talk us through the different sort of phases you went through from your career before you essentially, ended up where we are now.
Well, dude, for anyone's listening out there, I'm a big advocate. I was never the smartest kid at school. I was always the one that had to read things 50 times to get it. I was always pretty gifted at sport, probably a lot more gifted than you.
Definitely not.
But I was always naturally athletic, so that came easy to me.
What happened to that? Can you walk me through what happened there? Like, where did that void fall? It's like the cliff. They talk about the interest rate cliff.
What a great lead in for you.
They talk about the interest rate cliff.
Moment of this bloody podcast.
Where was that cliff?
Well, never leaves you. Never leaves you. But man, you know what? One of the proudest moments of my career, life, was high school, getting a mark in my year 12 VCE. I know we're not talking about this, but this was a real poignant moment. It was about getting a score that was much better than a lot of my mates that was so much smarter than me, purely because they didn't apply themselves.
Hard work.
And that's when I knew at 18 years or 17 years of age that if I was going to get anywhere, I just had to work harder than everyone else. And that just was something that was ingrained into me, and that was awesome. So went to uni, did a business degree, finished that. A week after my last exam, I had an opportunity to work on a cruise ship. A 20-year-old working on a cruise ship. 100%. I was in charge of all the sports activities. I was doing the aerobics class. One of my first cruises, I rock up to the venue at 9 a.m. and there's literally 30 chicks around the age of 18, 19 in this room. And I walk in the door and just look. And they look at me. There's no other dude in the room except for me. I thought, if only.
Do you mean there was no dude in the room?
There was no one else. There was just all these chicks.
Yes.
Except for.
He's a bit slow.
So mate, that started a whole different. I thought I was going to go and work for 4 months and then go back into the corporate world.
Yeah.
And man, I ended up working on cruise ships for 10 years.
Did you stay as the aerobics instructor? Did you have any aerobics instructor? Did you have any experience?
I actually cheated. I blagged the certificate to say that I could teach aerobics. To get the job, I was a fitness instructor. I was a personal trainer, but not in that space.
Okay.
So I got there because my brothers had worked on ships, so I had an in. Yeah. And then, man, just being ambitious, I quickly became a cruise director. So you're in charge of all the entertainment. I was within a couple of years.
Big shortage in the industry, was there?
Probably was. Yeah, right time, right place. And then I did that for 10 years, traveling around the world, living the dream.
That's so cool, man.
And then at the age of 30, came off. Well, during that period, that's when I built my first property.
Yeah.
In Ormo.
Yeah.
In 2003. So giving away the age, but that was, I was 23. I had a deposit. I was thinking, you know what, how good's this?
Because you're making decent money, right? Like,
dude, at that age, I was probably, starting out, you're on like $3,000 a month, but you weren't, no expenses or cash.
But that long ago, that must be like 300 grand in today's dollars.
Probably, yeah. Especially in New Zealand dollars. But then as a cruise director, you're on like, 8 to 10K a month.
Okay.
So as a young kid, on 8 to 10 can and not a lot of expenses.
Pretty good, yeah.
It's pretty good.
Of course.
So I just went down a whole different journey and then got off the ships at the age of 30. I always knew that I wanted to do. I only did it because of the travel.
Yeah.
I'm getting paid. I didn't have a lot of money as a kid. The first time I went overseas was when I was 21 and was on
a cruise ship.
Got paid to do it.
Yeah,
Never even been on I don't even think I'd even been on a plane.
Really?
Well, man, where would I go? I don't think I did. Anyway.
Plenty of places you could go. I don't know. Do you really want me to
So that just sort of started a whole different chain of events of going down a different direction and met a lot of cool people on the ships. And one of them was heavily into fitness.
Okay.
And that's what led me down the fitness path of opening up a few gyms, which is what I did in my early 30s, open up a gym, a Jets 24-hour gym, which ended up being really, really successful.
Yeah.
And man,
the one gym you opened up, the Jets?
At that time, back in 2013.
Okay.
And then started an actual entertainment agency business. Because I worked as a cruise director looking after entertainers on the ships.
Yep.
I just sort of fell into this opportunity where an agent in London was looking to expand his business in Australia. The Australian market was pretty novice back then.
Okay.
I thought, well, why not give this a crack?
Yep.
So it was a grafting. So as an agent, you're basically supplying performers and entertainers on the ships that fly on and off constantly, like comedians, singers, magicians, and so forth. So as an agent, right? All commission based. So the first year, coming from working on a cruise ship, wearing suits, traveling to Mykonos, Santorini, having pizzas in bloody Florence. I'm back at home living with mum.
Big port in Florence.
Did I say that? Yeah. I was
in the middle of
You're an idiot. Well, it's called Livorno, but I was trying to make it easy for you.
Yeah, right. Gotcha.
Man, the first year of my business journey, I made $18,000 in commissions.
Well done.
18 grand.
Yeah.
And there was plenty of times I had to move back home with mum.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a graft.
The first year of business, it's tough, yeah. Like, people think, business, they're killing it, they're doing all the rest of it. Like, people that you see that are doing well in business, they've generally gone through a year or two of very, very hard graft and hard slog before it actually pays off. Most people never get past that. It's some ridiculous percentage of businesses, especially small businesses, that fall away in the first 12, 24 months. So yeah, man, I can, within my own journey with what I do, I can definitely relate to that.
So dude, I was looking for any other little side gigs to try and make some money. I was living at home. I was living very frugally, but I just had this vision of obviously building a bigger business. And each year, so the second year, the commissions went up to 35,000.
Can I ask a quick question? There was a rumor around APS that you were a stripper during that downtime to try and make money. Is that true?
No. Do you think I was?
Your physique, that's what like makes me think it can't be true. But everyone
that was the gag he was leading into.
Everyone was telling me. There's a story, I don't know if Jimmy started it himself, but you need to ask him when you're dissecting the story. So that's a false rumor?
Oh yeah, only on the weekends.
Only on the weekends.
Definitely wasn't
Wasn't a stripper. Can be confirmed.
I would have been making a lot more money, trust me, if I was a stripper than $18,000.
I wasn't sure about that. Was that the only income? That's where the 18 grand came from.
Right. I was a bad stripper. Very bad
stripper. The worst. Keep giving the tips.
So man, that was the start of my business career. It went from 18 grand to 35 grand to the next year was like 70 grand.
Like doubling every year is a very
it literally was.
Yeah, right. But and so that's all you were doing at that time was this.
And then that's when probably 3 years into the agency, that's when we started the Jets gym. And man, that Jets gym taught me so much. In terms of both businesses taught me so much about just that delayed gratification and sacrifice, because so many people said, especially with the Jets gym, my whole family said, do not do this. You don't know what you're doing. You're going to stuff it up. You're going to lose all your money. And man, here I am. I've just got off a cruise ship, living the dream. I'm trying to start this other business. I'm investing with two mates for this gym. Everyone's telling you what you can't do. Man, I remember I was actually pretty depressed at the time because my life felt like shit.
Yeah.
Right? Living at home. It's Melbourne. It's winter. You haven't got any money. I didn't have a girlfriend back then. Go on. There's your cue.
No, I'm trying to be respectful.
So, and then all my family is saying, don't do the gym. Don't do the gym. You don't know what you're doing. And mate, luckily enough, a mate of mine who I did work with on the cruise ships opened up 3 of these Jets gyms in Brisbane.
Okay.
And that dude was extremely successful. He's one of my close mates and a mentor. And he said to me words that I've never forgotten. He said, be very wary of the advice you get from people who haven't done what you're trying to do.
Yes.
And man, we opened up that gym. The first 2 years of that gym, it was National Club of the Year.
Wow.
So I went from, and actually Jets themselves told us it was a B grade site. You don't open it up. It's going to be a shit site.
Really?
The finance weren't going to give us any money because they said, you guys don't know what you're doing and all that. Like the objections constantly.
So how'd you smash it? How did you guys do so well? Would you hands on with it as well?
Yeah. Early days.
In Brisbane?
Early days. No. We opened up in Melbourne, but my mate opened up in Brisbane.
He had done his in Brisbane.
Yeah,
okay.
So he just told us the success formula, right?
Yep.
So when we opened it up, it became a hugely successful. And then 2 years later, the best part of that, Jets told us all along, don't open it up. It's not going to work. They weren't even going to give us the actual licensing.
Yeah.
The sweetest part about it was when Jets when they got bought out by a private equity firm.
Yeah,
they came back and bought our gym office at a premium because they wanted to buy back the top performing gyms.
Wow,
man, that was a
the B grade to the A triple plus.
That's it.
Well,
so
do you mind? Like, are you able to disclose the figures of what you bought this B grade site for and then sold it back to? Or
I think
or not?
Setup cost was probably about $500,000. really, but we didn't put in all that money. We probably put about 100 grand in each.
Okay, borrowed the rest.
Yeah, we borrowed the rest, and then we sold it for about 1.2 mil.
Well done, congratulations.
But man, it's not even about the money, to be honest with you, because when I look back at it and you look at those numbers, if I invested that 100 grand in property, it would have done heaps better than the business. But I wouldn't have learned the lessons of, dude, going to the train station in Melbourne at 5 a.m. handing out flyers to try and get people interested to your gym.
Yuck.
Man, that is
people want
the
man. Yeah. So it's a hard shit that 99.999% of the population aren't going to do.
That's it. So all of that stuff leading up to that point about footy and training and school and delaying all the shit, it ingrained that work ethic to get that.
So you literally are like the dog, right? The dogged mentality, the silver dog.
I always say that I'm the underdog. I actually, it's my mate, my cousin always gives me shit. He goes, "You love that, I'm like, dude, because it's true. I've never was never the gifted person, and I'm not saying that I'm anything special than anyone else in any way.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I love to try and tell people, and in the sense of trying to help people, is the real leveler on anything in life is your fucking work ethic and your application. So don't make excuses for what you don't have and what the story and all the bullshit things, because there's a lot more people that have had worse than my scenario, and they've done heaps better than me.
Yeah,
right?
Course.
But if you're doing yourself an injustice, because the only person at the end of the day when you look in the mirror is when you look in your own eyeballs and you see yourself, you can't lie to yourself.
Yeah, 100%, brother. I agree with you.
So that's what I suppose spurred me on to keep moving. We sold the Jets gym. The agency business started to really take off.
Okay.
Starting to make
the hard graft is finally starting to pay.
Starting to make 200 to 300 grand in commissions.
Wow. Okay.
Right?
Yep.
Then we start moving into, with my partners in the UK, festivals. So we're actually hiring the full cruise ship.
Whoa.
And we're producing like an 80s cruise over 3 nights.
Yeah.
So I put in about $500,000 into this business, right, of my own cash.
Yeah. This is kind of like the Jets profit, sort of what was left over.
Yeah,
from
a
Jets
bit
profit.
of that, and also some savings from the agency business, right? And so then started going down the business road, and man, everything was looking pretty good so far.
Yep.
We sold Jets. Then I moved into another franchise in Melbourne for fitness. We opened up 3 of those gyms. So I'm just leading up until COVID, right? Let's fast track it. The one property that I did buy in 2015 though was a buyer's agent, a mate of mine who went to school with, the year below me, and he knew, like, we were talking about stuff, and he said, "Well, you're clearly making some money. You should invest." I'm like, "Okay, yeah, cool." He goes, "Well, let me find you a property. I'm doing this.
Yeah.
I never really heard of buyer's agents or used buyer's agents. Told me he's buying properties in Brisbane. It was a pretty fast transaction process. So then he found me that property in Aspley, which was my first deal. I paid $541,000 for that house in 2015. It was rented for about $420,000, so it was negatively geared.
Yep.
I still remember to the day, 6 months on the dot, he calls me back up and says, "Are you ready to go again?" I said, "Well, with what? I don't think the property's done anything." And he goes, "Nah, surely it's gone up." I said, "Dude, I've spoken to the bank. It hasn't gone up."
Yeah.
He goes, "Well, don't you have any more cash to put in?" It's like, man, I thought the whole plan of attack was for me to recycle some equity.
Yeah.
So that property has been a lemon ever since,
Okay.
and I've still got that property, but I haven't needed to sell it. It grew quite aggressively in COVID, and now it's probably pulled back. Bank valued around the 800s.
Okay. And you paid 600 for it?
541.
Oh, sorry, 541. Okay.
So it's negatively geared.
What does it rent for?
Now it rents for 580.
What was it renting for, say, pre-COVID?
450.
Okay.
Yeah. So 450.
Yeah, sweet. Okay,
So-
let's keep on the run up for a sec in terms of the business stuff, because if we keep running on that before we dive into the portfolio, we got to come back to that one, and we'll obviously come back to the Ibrahim special back in the early 2000s as well. What happened with that one?
So I
But
suppose,
keep going with it.
leading into here is, I suppose, moving up to close to COVID, my situation was I had an agency business that was doing quite well.
Yep.
I was quite happy with that. I was working hard, obviously. I had 3 gyms with some partners in Melbourne. They were mainly looking after, and I was trying to be hands off.
Yep.
But we had probably invested about 150 grand each into setting those up. And then I'd put in $500,000 into this festivals business, because this was going to be the big money earner, because you can make a lot of money off cruise
100%,
charters. You basically, it's a themed cruise.
Okay.
And so then all of a sudden, COVID hits.
Yep.
Cruise lines cancel every contract, because obviously there's no cruises. It's all commission based.
Yeah.
Every date that I had booked in from an agency perspective, cancelled in advance. So
Can I ask you a question? You said you tipped $500,000 into this business.
The festivals business. That's
what? Why did you put so much money into a festivals business?
So when you're doing a cruise charter, like a festivals business, basically the cruise line,
Yes.
you need to hire the ship.
Oh shit!
So it's like you to pay for a cruise line for a week.
Yeah.
It's like multi-million dollars that you're paying.
So you literally you essentially rent the ship, hire the
It's
ship,
like renting an Airbnb house, but we've just rented it with 3,500 rooms.
and then you rent each room because you're selling tickets to this festival, right?
So it's almost like saying you go to a hotel in the city and you say, "I want your hotel for a week."
Yep.
And then you take that hotel
and you rent all the
and
rooms.
you sell it to the market. And you
Yep.
say, we're going to put on an 80s night, 3 nights in a row, and you sell it to the market. So the margin at which you're buying, you're renting it and you're selling it, the only difference is you have to produce a festival.
Yeah.
So we had massive 80s artists from the UK that were on this festival.
Who?
Like the Human League. It's probably a bit past your age.
You
heard the song.
You said massive.
If you heard
massive,
the song,
I've
do you
never
know
heard of the
any? Do you know any 80s bands?
Yeah, 100%. What do you mean who? Stones, Beatles, are they 70s?
That's a bit rock.
80s? What do you mean?
Nah,
Didn't you say
this
rock
is like
band?
80 techno. Techno.
80, what are you doing, the Zohan bloody robot or something? What's going on?
UB40, that kind of ilk.
Okay.
Spandau Ballet, every song you would know, right? Okay. Anyway, so you're hiring these artists. They're big name artists,
okay,
right? So that's why it was quite capital intensive.
Okay, I can understand.
Right? So
can I ask, do they still get paid even if the cruise doesn't go ahead?
Dude, you pay, a lot of these artists don't do anything unless 50% up front.
Whoa.
These artists.
Okay. Yeah.
So
and the cruise ship, do you get money back from the cruise liners that you booked cruises?
What's this for?
Let's say
the
when
festival
you
business?
Yeah.
Nah, the cruise line doesn't give a shit. They're hiring it to you. They're like, if you fail at this, fuck you. Bad luck.
But what if you can't even put the cruise ahead?
No, then you lose all of the money that you put in as a holding to secure the ship. It's like a deposit.
Yeah,
right. So the cruise line, I mean, they want you to be successful, but it's up to you.
Yeah.
So man, leading up to that, we did our first year. We ran it at a bit of a loss.
Okay.
We did it again the second year, building momentum, building a brand from scratch. Because it was an 80s cruise and a musical theatre cruise, 3 night and 4 nights, action packed. And then we're leading up to the third year where we're producing 3 back-to-back cruises. Okay. Right, on a massive ship.
Yeah.
This was going to be our biggest undertaking. It was almost like everything was riding on this being the most successful. Then COVID hit. So then the cruise line basically cancelled our contract because they said, well, the cruise is not going to go on, right? We're going to have to cancel this. They said, we'll refund you. And they're like, well, we don't have enough money to pay back everyone that has already paid their deposit to go on the cruise, let alone we've already outlaid a shit ton of money for these artists and they're not going to give the money back. They're about to go into COVID and they've just got like $100,000. Yeah,
they need drink money.
They've got a lot of money.
These artists. Yeah.
So that business went into liquidation, had no other choice but to be liquidated.
Because you couldn't afford to pay everyone back.
Man, we couldn't afford to pay anyone back.
No.
So whatever capital that was there paid back a lot of the guests and the passengers.
Yeah.
We lost. So basically I had a $250K capital loss. My business partners, they would have lost at least another, probably close to $1 million. $1 million all up, we all lost, right?
Jesus,
But this is the thing. We were working on this since 2016.
Yep.
So this was like 4 years in the making. I didn't earn $1 in 4 years working on that business. And so when people say, I only want to do it if it's going to be successful, I'm like, do you understand what it takes? If you want to be the world champion boxing, you got to get in the ring.
Yeah, 100%.
You're going to get smacked a few times.
Yeah.
So, man, leading up to COVID, and before I met you, and I know we've been waffling on, it seems like, I'm sorry about that.
No, it's good to get the backstory.
But
people don't know this story, this part.
Well, the reason
I didn't even know that, like that in detail. I knew some to an extent, but I didn't know in that detail.
So let me paint the picture for you, right? So I'm 39.
Yep.
It's Melbourne winter. I'm obviously, I've got a partner by then. She's got 2 kids. We're in lockdown in COVID. I've just lost at least 250 grand in commissions each year for the agency business.
Yep.
I've got a capital loss of 250 grand for the festival business. 3 of the gyms have shut the doors
because of COVID. You can't
so
open gyms.
We're incurring deferred rent on income that we're not earning because the landlords with the ruling back then, half was wiped off, but half was continuing to build. So we're accumulating more and more debt. And I'm thinking, how the hell am I going to get out of this situation? And so then I just went into what I knew best, and it was just to deep dive into getting myself out of this. So I just went into full research mode about how am I going to improve my situation. I was listening to every webinar. I was reading every article. And I started just to consume myself. And I always thought, you know what? I was good at earning money in business, but I was shit at investing. And I knew that I was shit at investing because when you're too caught up in your business, you don't spend any time investing in anything else because I'll do it later. I'll do it later.
I'll make the money in the business and then I'll do something with it.
But at that point, I just thought, you know what? I've lost a lot of money at this point. I've got nothing left to lose. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to dive deep into investing and be a better investor. And from that minute on, I just went on down a path and just consumed as much info. So, man, I was listening to a webinar and they were talking about some success student. And this is actually, it's quite funny because I remember this. It was a Saturday. Right? And it was lunchtime or something. And I remember having a massive row with them. She's like, Saturday, well, you want to listen to a webinar? You're working all week. Because I was just like full tunnel vision. So she was getting stuck into me because it was a Saturday. This webinar was going all day, right? Supposed to spend some quality time doing fun games and all, whatever.
Then this is fun, babe. Watch your game.
So this webinar says, this young kid, you know, he bought 12 properties in 12 months or something. And they said your name. I was like, who the fuck is this guy? Start Googling who this
He's
guy.
so much better looking than me. More well built.
Bad rig.
Better
tan. And then I came across Australian Property Scout, and that's when I just filled in the form. And then you arranged the call. And that's when things, my whole investing thing changed completely. And man, as you would know, I remember when I was talking to you and you ran me through the strategy and what you had done and how you'd built your portfolio. And I was thinking to myself, how is this guy 10 years younger than me built this in this in this time period? And I just went back to all of because I've consumed so much stuff about Anthony Robbins, your mate Tony, like all of the life coaches, all of the real estate webinars, seminars. Man, I've gone to how many, the amount of 3-day conferences that I've actually gone to, but I never took action. And when I was speaking to you and you said, this is exactly what I've done, and my mate Richie that told me about jets just rang in my head and I thought, you know what? Follow the people's advice who have already done it.
Can I say for one sec there? I always find the very interesting thing, and this was the same thing with that program essentially that I had enrolled in for a 12-month window back then. The really interesting thing that I always found was I did that back then. I got a little bit of information from it. You know, like it wasn't as if they taught me everything. I learned a little bit from that. I learned so much from all my reading in the years before, so I learned a lot from that. I did a lot of other courses and seminars and all these little things, and so many of the instructors, they're telling you stuff that's theory. They don't even put it into practice, so they don't even properly know how to do it. So you're almost like the test dummy going out there having a crack. And I think like the really awesome thing and the cool thing, and I think the thing that I love and really respect about you in this sense as well is like, you've gone with someone that's got the proven track record of what you want. It's not just like it's the theory and they're speaking the you know they're spilling the whatever the wine, you know, that's selling you the special sauce, the sizzle without the sausage, you know, like it's the actual stuff is in there that's been done before as well. It's not just a pitch; it's something that's been done before. And man, I remember that's something that you always said to me. You go, mate, I don't care how you do it, like. This is like you, because I remember you came to me, you go, I've just lost this amount of money. I've lost my income stream. I need to replace that. I don't really care. Like just show me how to replace it. Let's do the deals that replace it. And I was like, sweet.
I remember having that conversation with you and I said, I'll do exactly what you tell me to do. I said, and you're right. I said, I don't care how you do it. But you tell me what to do and I'll do it. And I never forget that moment. And man, that's when we went on a completely different path. And you know, again, at that point, I didn't ask anyone. I didn't tell my friends. I didn't tell my family. Because by that point, I never even told any of my family what I did. After that Jets moment, not because I love my family and we're really super close and we'd celebrate success and all that, but I just didn't feel I needed the validation or the opinion because I knew what I was doing. Like I just backed myself. I'll do it. And it's my money. And you know what? Losing that money, it was probably at least 650 grand, right?
That's
whether
huge.
it's capital losses or just lost income.
Yep.
Because, and the thing is, what I didn't do is, and it was a genius move in hindsight, and is I didn't go on Job Seeker. No, but I didn't go on Job Seeker.
Oh, right. Because that would have killed you borrowing.
Because I did have a certain amount of capital.
Yep.
And I would pay myself through my business the income.
Yep.
So that it would show that I was earning money, even though I was just earning my own savings. so that I didn't go on jobs because I thought this is going to hurt my ability to borrow money.
Yep.
So that move saved me.
100%. Yeah, 100%, man. Yeah, because if you'd gone on that and killed your borrowing capacity, it would have been all over Red Rover. And I think this was 2020, as with late 2020. This was kind of like in the thick, not even late 2020. This was middle, the other side, July, August or something. I'm pretty sure
Our first deal
of
was
2020,
September 2020.
Yeah, so it's like we're thick COVID as well, man. So like you're rolling the dice through the heart of it, 100%.
And I'll admit, I never liked to spend money because I grew up without a lot of money.
100%.
So any dollar that I had, I'd hold on to it super tight. I was too scared to make any decision.
Yeah.
But when I lost that money, I always say to people, it was the best thing that happened to me. And not being flippant with money, but it stopped my fear of making a decision. And that's when I thought, you know what? I'm actually all right. Even though I've lost it all, fuck, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad I had a crack at that festival business. It didn't work out. Because I wanted to do that for like 10 years.
Yeah.
So that always haunted me not doing that business. So that was a long time in the making. So I actually am happy I lost 250 grand because I had a crack.
Yeah.
And I've had different businesses that I haven't mentioned along the way. We've had coffee roastery factories. We've done online coffee. Like a lot of them didn't work. Stripping. But a lot of them didn't work.
Sole trader, that
right?
One.
So the point is getting to this point in time with you. I'd already lost a lot.
Yes.
And I realized, you know what? I've got nothing to lose.
Reset the bar.
I've got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
And that's why we started the journey with you.
Mate, I love it, eh? We are 37 minutes in and we've just peeled the many onions. They're a little bit weathered, but the onion has been peeled. There's a little bit more green shoots on the inside, you know? Bit of the good stuff is starting to show through on the inside. But man, I think it's mad because like sometimes the most successful people are the ones that have fallen the furthest, especially like when you fall and when you have a really rough period and there's been really hard. I even look at myself with some of the things that I've done and like those times that you fall over or you have to come up with crazy solutions or make something happen. Man, it's like that reset point. It's like, well, now I've got to go to a new level. I can't just like, what am I going to do? Wallow in self-pity? And there would be 99% of people would get there, but then the 1% that get up and have a crack, they're the ones that go to the top because they've been at the bottom before and they've fought, and now they're there. You fight to stay there, you know? So, man, I love it. And obviously the run you've been on for the last couple of years with us and how hard you've gone into it and how much you trusted me because you just said, I remember you saying to me, I can't remember the exact wording, but it was just like I don't want to just do deals, man. Like I want to do the best deals. I go, all right, no worries. How big are your balls? And you go, mate, I'll do whatever you tell me to do. And that was the moment when you said, I'll do whatever you tell me to do. And I go, all right, these are the deals we're going to do. They're going to be this strategy. We're going to layer this on top. You'll be in this market. We're going to go for this sort of purchase price. Bang, 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 bang. And you go, yep, beautiful. Let's do it.
And for everyone listening out there, you don't have to lose $500,000 to make your move.
Yeah,
like I just want people to think.
Yeah. It might be 30 years sitting on the sideline doing nothing.
That's
you know, the $500,000 might be money they never invested, or even sitting on the sidelines for 5 years or 10 years, and money that they never invested that they could have invested to get the better result. It doesn't mean they literally had to lose the dollar figure, but it's almost something they've missed out on. Like, you know, even that, so many people will sit there and let that opportunity pass by and let that lesson pass by. It's the ones that take action after that.
Can I say,
results.
even leading to this moment and just backtracking a little bit, I had always had a goal to get 5 properties by the age of 30.
Yes.
Right? And a lot of my passwords for all the things that I would put in for my email and stuff had 530 in it subliminally because I always wanted to achieve that. I got to 30 and didn't achieve that goal. I got to 39 because I sold that Ormo property and I only had one property, right? So since I bought my first property for 20 years or close to 20 years, the negative self-talk was that you are not good enough because you said you were going to do this goal.
You never hit
and the worst critic is yourself.
Yeah.
So just to let people know, that inner dialogue, because we've all got our money story, we've all got the shit that we say to ourselves. I've been filthy on myself for a very long time about the stuff that I didn't do, which is probably why I tried to make up for it by going big on these businesses to try and make a big win. So the point I want to get to people is that if you're listening to this and you're having those same conversations or you haven't done something that you wanted to do, we all have been there. We know the exact feeling. Like it's normal
100%.
to have that.
Yeah, man.
Especially if you're quite driven and you want to do. If you're not driven, that's cool. No one's saying you have to. But if that's something inside of you that you have that burning desire to want to do something more, it is normal to feel a bit negative on yourself if you haven't achieved it. And I was just sick and tired of being fucking shit at investing. I had had enough. Like I was like, this is it. I don't want to go into 40 years of age not having had a crack. And I was prepared to lose even more. I think I even said to you, I'm prepared to lose every cent that I've got because I'd rather get to the end scrapping my way through and go, you know what? Fuck, I've lost everything, but at least I've had a crack. I don't want to get to the end. It's like the old saying, you'd rather die on your feet than live on your knees. Get to the end having a crack. And that's why that was the turning point. I've lost everything. This is it. I'm swinging for the fence. I'm going all out.
And I get the feeling, I honestly get the feeling that if the arse had fallen out of the market due to COVID and you'd lost that 250, 300K, whatever you started with me, you just would have had another go after it as well. Like it wouldn't have been the end of the picture. Obviously, things have turned out fantastically, but I know that wouldn't have been the end of the road for you anyway. You know,
but it's not just for me, right? For people, like everyone's got this moment that they want to use as an excuse or, you know what, I lost all my money in fucking the GFC. Like that's been
15 years, bro.
Yeah. Like how many opportunities?
Yeah.
So, yeah, anyway.
How many cycles could you have massively
we just got on with it. And that's when we started doing our first deal.
I love it. Mate, we are 41 minutes in. In the spirit of time, we're not turning this into a 2.5 hour out.
No.
Let's punch through. To begin with, I want you to give me a 60-second recap on what happened with Ormo, the in, the out, the reason you sold, everything.
Well, I bought Ormo in 2003 for just over 300 grand.
Okay.
Right? The property was...
Ormo, for everyone who doesn't know.
Queensland.
Queensland, halfway between Brisbane and the Gold Coast.
I didn't know what I was doing.
Yep.
I literally flew up to visit a mate. I wanted to buy a different property. The rents were better in Queensland than what I could get in Melbourne for the same price.
Generally better at most things,
Yeah, I just thought this would be a better deal. Excuse me. It was a rubbish deal. The property grew a little bit in the first couple of years.
That was decent timing for Queensland because Queensland doubled around 04 to 07. It had a decent run through that little period. So the timing was all right.
Probably went up to about 400, maybe 450 max.
And you paid what? 300. 300. Okay.
Yeah. So, but then the house burned down. I got a call. I was working on a cruise ship at the time. I get this phone call or this email saying, "Oh, I'm sorry to say, but your property is burnt down." She was more disappointed than I was because I was like, "Are they all safe?" She goes, "Yep." I went, "Absolute beauty."
Call the insurance company. Well done, boys. Thank you. Here's the brown paper. Not really.
Being overseas, I did nothing at this property for about 8 months.
Yeah, right.
Because it was just too hard basket.
Yep.
Eventually rebuilt it. And then the property did nothing for a long stretch.
Okay.
And then I sold it in 2017.
Oh, wow. Was it that late that you sold it?
And I sold it for $523,000.
Okay. So in a 15-year window, you almost doubled it. Almost.
Yeah. I mean, what a lemon that is.
The question though, the question though is like if you had sold in 2007-ish, like when Brizzy peaked out, what would you have sold for then?
Probably 450.
So in the scheme of things of looking at like that 10-year window between 2007 and 2017 when you could have sold, you could have essentially banked, even call it a 50% profit and got your cash back and gone and done something 100%. Else, you know?
Which is a really good point that you say when people think they'll just hold on to it for 20 years. As you say, the market cycles,
terrible
boom,
strategy.
And then they stay flat for a bit.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened here. So in hindsight, I should never have done that.
Yeah.
So leading up to you, I'd had 2 real shit experiences with property.
One quick step on this is like you shouldn't, if anything, you should have sold it in 2017. You either should have sold it in 2007 or you should have held to the next market 100%. Because the next market run wasn't far away. You're an extra 10 years you've held it for. And this is obviously from a novice investor perspective, is you selling at that point is a novice investor not realizing that I've just spent 10 years in the lull period. You may as well hold to the next cycle because you've just held for that huge period. Inflation has eaten away your profit. You've missed most of the other market cycles in that time frame. You may as well hold because Brizzy's almost up next. You got a couple of years to wait until that next cycle kicks off. Like almost the worst decision was the time you sold it. If you could have rewound and sold it 10. And I'm just saying blunt from an external perspective. So
100% I agree with you. So eventually, I remember I sold it because I was reading an article and said, if you're holding on to assets that are not performing for you, just what are you doing? And I just thought, and then it was a stupid decision. Should never have done it.
Okay. All right. Beautiful. So sold at that period.
Sold at that.
Banked a bit of a profit.
We'll just offset some of the capital loan from Aspley. From capital. Because with Aspley, I think the bank took, I don't know how, I can't exactly remember, but Commonwealth Banks, I had both loans together. They actually took some of the sale proceeds and lowered my loan on Aspley.
You must have had it cross-securitized.
I think because I didn't know any better at that time. But the broker, he was a bit of a shark, this guy. So he wasn't looking out for my best interest.
Can I ask, was he recommended by the
buyer's agent? Yeah. Absolutely. That same broker said to a mate of mine who was asking the question, he advised the guy to get his parents to be guarantor for a possible investment property, but not tell them.
Oh, forge your signature.
Well, he was basically intimating to him, you need to get your parents and don't worry about it. They don't need to know that. Like, just the whole ethics and morals of this guy.
Yeah.
He was just slippery.
No,
so that's
okay. Almost done and dusted. Boom, gone. Aspley. When did you buy this one?
Bought that in mid 2015.
Okay, second lemon in the portfolio. 541.
541.
Did you say you sold Ormo for 540?
523.
Oh, 523. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
This place, Astley, was rented for $455. It was a week. It was so 800 square meter block, 3-bed, 1 bath, relatively good condition. It was sold as a long-term play, potential development opportunity, nice and clean, easy property. It was negatively geared.
Okay. What do you reckon market value was when you bought it? Do you know?
I don't really know, but I definitely paid probably it was definitely not a deal.
Okay.
It would have been market value, if not maybe a little bit higher. This guy, the buyer's agent, and this guy's still killing it to today.
Really?
If he's listening, he's probably thinking, well, I mean, he's very successful from a financial perspective, but the strategy didn't stack up.
It's funny because I remember a few weeks back we were talking and I was getting fired up about these BAs that are literally, there are some big BAs out there that are still killing it, still doing really, really well, but the quality of their deals is so shit. They're so bad, but they still keep doing it because the name's so big that it just keeps going.
Well, this guy clearly was specializing in buying properties for doctors and lawyers and high income people that were happy to negatively geared. Yeah. And we're just holding on to these assets, and we'll just every 6 months have an extra $100K to put into a deal, hoping that eventually they're going to increase in value. That was the whole strategy.
That's terrible. All right, 2 duds.
So 2 duds. So that's why also being burnt twice of my experiences and coming to you, there was a bit of faith in what you could do.
Yep.
And that's when we started. And man, the exact reason why I went on with APS was you were young. I could see the hunger and the ambition in what you were doing. I saw the journey that you did with your own portfolio. And I thought, if I can just even mimic and copy this guy, I will be even fractionally successful.
Yep.
And that's all I did. And I wish I'd learnt that earlier. So when I have calls with clients in their 20s and 30s, I'm like, dude, just find someone. You don't, and I always talk about the circle of influence.
Yeah.
You know, I always harp on about that.
Yep.
But that is the most important thing you can take out of this episode.
Yep.
If anything, is find someone who's already done it. And so for you, being 10 years older than you, I was okay to understand and admit that I wasn't as smart as you when it came to property.
Yep.
I'm probably smarter than you about everything else.
You need an IQ check on your hairstyle because it's fucking horrid.
But when it comes to property, you clearly had won the game. And so, man, that's why you gotta give credit where credit's due. So
thank you, man.
Moving forward to all this,
let's smash some deals, bro.
Yeah, but I'm gonna give you the credit because all I did was say yes to backing you. So when people, and I was happy to pay you a fee for you to deliver an outcome, of which you did.
You know what I find funny as well is people have probably heard me talk here and there in the past about text closing a client, like text closing a deal, right, with a client. It's just like a deal comes through, all the numbers stack up. Jimmy was my first ever client that I would essentially just message him and go, hey mate, here are the details on the deal. He's like, yep, no worries, send me the contract. And this obviously wasn't on the first deal. I don't even think it was, actually I think it could have even been on the second, looking back at these numbers and these addresses. Second deal. First one took a little, obviously we had to walk through it and everything. But yeah, it was really where it all kind of kicked off and started, especially during COVID and how hard we went out there negotiating for him at this time as well. So
the penny dropped after the first deal. As soon as I did that first deal, and this is what I say to clients, don't get too caught up on trying to see the big picture just yet.
Yeah.
Start with the first deal. And as soon as I did that first deal, I remember we had the conversation. I said, anything in that sweet spot, I will buy.
Yeah.
And that's when we went from buying our first property in September 2020 to the 4th property in...
probably December or something, wasn't it? It was super quick.
Yes. We bought September, then October, then November.
Yep.
So 3 in a row. And then February the following year. So within the space of 5 months, we bought 4 deals.
Yeah. How detailed are we going to go? So we're just going to go into the fact. Do we just dive into the strategy of?
Yeah, I don't think we have to go into the specific, like the numbers. And as I say to clients on the call, I bought the first 4 deals were all about manufactured cash flow deals. Which is, as I said to you, I need to replace my income.
Yeah.
The sweet spot for that timing, as you would know, was we were in a period where you could get growth and cash flow. It was a unicorn moment in the 100%. Market. That doesn't always present, right? So I paid between $285 and $330 for those 4 deals.
Yeah.
3 bed,
so we're
bar.
targeting strong growth corridors, Southeast Queensland. We knew the growth was coming, especially because there was already an influx of people moving to Southeast Queensland. There was already a lot of stuff going on there as well. But obviously the migration numbers of people from internally within Australia moving to Queensland was massive. There was some big demand coming through for this sort of stuff. So you kind of had all the market fundamentals were already there, shaping up nicely. But then you also had all this additional migration on top. And the strategy essentially was targeting that market hard. We knew what we could build. We knew the yields that we needed to target. So he had the location down pat. The big key criteria as well was buying below market, buying at a discount. Jimmy didn't say it, but essentially I told him we're going to buy the shittest houses that we can find because we're going to buy at hectic discounts, even like market value and then discounts on top because of these renovation style deals. We're going to renovate, add values, add beds, add bathrooms, add as much potential as we can to get these things the highest yield. I won't walk through the exact debrief in terms of the exact style of deals because we targeted exactly the same deal type again and again where we're able to turn the average $300, $350 per week rental, or call it $350, $360 per week rental into a $550, $600 per week rental for a 50, 60K renovation. So 50, 60K sounds like a big reno, but it's not in the scheme of what we were producing and almost doubling the rent, right? So huge return on that front. And then obviously building secondary dwellings as well, which at the time we were building for very, very cheap pricing because it was before market had really moved from a building perspective and it had gone nuts. But most of our yields range between 8 to 9%. We did do one deal that was an absolute stonker that funnily enough, it was a termite-ridden house, right? So I always say I buy the properties that I wouldn't sell to a client, except for Jimmy. So, funnily enough, I bought this property, but it was during COVID when a lot of people would know, I've told this story before, I did a lot of low dock lending. The way the kitchen was set up in this, it was an illegal setup in terms of the kitchen. So I actually couldn't get it through. So we knew it was termite ridden. It was completely off market. We knew it was termite ridden. I'm just going to buy it because it was pretty stuffed. Did the building and pest, did the valve. The valve failed for me because of the tiered lender that I was using at the time. And so it was just like I had to look at the client base and go, is there anyone that like would want to take this on, or do I just bin it? Because it was a risky deal. And I called Jimmy and he goes, well, what do you reckon? And I go, mate, if I literally would do this, if I could get it through, I don't care about the termites, I'd do it. It's just I can't get the lending because of that. And he goes, all right, let's do it. And I was like, all right, well, I'll get a quote first. I'll get everything quoted 100% first. And then if everything plays out, we'll do it. We'll pull the trigger. Everything actually came in a tad under quote with what we had. We essentially fully rebuilt this house. Took it from it was literally an unlivable. I'm not kidding. It did not val up. I couldn't buy this thing. It did not val up. And that deal on completion of everything, it actually came in under target. I think I negotiated, was it 50K, 50K off this thing?
Yeah.
I think I had it at 310.
I think it was at least 40.
To have it at 310, and we got it for 260. Yeah,
260.
Yeah, so I know 50K off the price, right? Because I told him it was going to be 100K for a rebuild on this thing. Essentially, I think we did the rebuild for 60K. I think that's the number I'm getting from.
Yep.
So yeah, man, and that deal was a 10%. It was like a 10.2 or 10.5% yielding deal on completion. But now, like, where would those? That would have to be a 13-14% yielding deal now with current rents. Yeah, like with that increase.
We had a pretty cracking rent on that at the day that started renting. Right? So it has gradually increased. But that actually is next door to the
first one we did.
One. So they're actually next to each other.
100%.
With another dwelling at the back. And that reno on that one is what's produced the real big daddy results.
Yes.
That was changing the rent from $350 to $685 for the reno on the house.
Wow, it's almost double.
Which is what I love about the strategy is that you're always having a few tricks in your bag that you can execute to get your situation better. So those first 4 deals were essentially cash flow deals, and they're all yielding. I mean, now they're all yielding at least 10%.
10% plus.
10%
Amazing.
plus.
Yeah.
All of them.
So even though, and a lot of people will say, because when we did those first 4 deals, I think we hit about $91,000, $92,000 per annum net passive, right?
Rates were super low, right?
But this was the crazy thing is we were at that number when rates were super low, but also when the rents were back at that lower level. Now rates 100% have done a run. I'm sure some of them are still on fixed rates quite low, but because rents have also done a run, yes, we might still not be sitting maybe quite at the 92, 91, 92, whatever it was at. But even though your interest rates have knocked a lot of the cash flow off, the increase in rents as well have actually boosted it back up as well. So it hasn't decimated as much as we potentially could have been on that front as well. But all around, man, just absolutely insane deals from that front.
Yeah, well, that's a credit to you.
First four deals, though, essentially wrapped, done and dusted.
Done.
We don't need to dive into all the numbers of all of them. Man, talk me through what about after this was a funny conversation we had, right? Because you're like, all right, mate, let's keep going. Let's keep doing these cash flow deals.
I thought, how easy are these deals? I mean, this guy, surely it can't be that hard. Sammy goes, oh, what do you reckon? Next deal? And I was like, yeah, another cash flow deal. He's like, nah, not doing that. I went, what are you talking about? Let's do another manufactured cash. I'm getting growth. I'm getting cash flow. This is easy. Shooting fish in a barrel.
Oh, God.
And then he goes, nah. He goes, nah. You got to do a bread and butter deal. He goes, and I remember you saying, mate, you're 40 years old. How are you going to pay these things off? You need to.
Did I?
You need to get the bread and butter deals. You need to hold those because eventually you're going to sell them to down pay debt against your cash flow deals. Yeah. So we need to get the bread and butter.
And a lot of people didn't get this. When interest rates were so low, they're like, oh, but look, we've been doing modeling and we've been doing this and it's so much cash flow. And I'm like, yeah, but man, interest rates will rise. If there is no exit strategy, no exit plan here, you're going to get hammered. You're going to get wiped out. Like, maybe not wiped out, but all the cash flow is going to get wiped out. So there's no scenario there where you can leave home, leave work and live on that income because we're at record low rates. It was always going to increase. And that's what I said to you, man. We need to start building in some debt reduction strategies in here, some debt reduction plays, and essentially still be layering all the same qualities of what we did on the cash flow deals, but just not from a cash flow perspective, more from a bread and butter perspective and achieving as much, growth and equity that we can out of those deals as we can.
So essentially, we refinanced. Well, actually, just to preface this, during the period between the fourth deal with you and moving on to, because I was refinancing some of the money from the first two deals to start buying our next investment properties. And that's when I bought my primary place of residence in Victoria down the coast. Yep. And it was a big equity play. I had a long settlement, but this property was on the market for a very long time, and it was 1,200 square meters.
This is for you yourself, primary residence, Melbourne.
Yeah. It was supposed to be. It was potentially either a development site or a primary place of residence. Because Dramana, I love it down the coast. It was actually up on the hill. You had views
Mornington
of the bay.
Peninsula, right?
Yeah, the Mornington Peninsula. And I was able to get this for 880K. It was on the market for ages. I remember negotiating, and I actually had the balls to do this on the back of doing some deals with you, right? And I remember negotiating this deal.
It's like false confidence.
I really wanted this deal because I knew the value. And you're talking about being a market expert.
Yes.
And I just had watched this market for a very long time. Yep. And I knew like vacant blocks at around 600 square meters were selling for like 450 to 500 grand, just the blocks alone. I was getting 1,200 square meters.
Like essentially a triple block.
Essentially double block for 1,200 square meters. So I managed to this other guy wanted to buy this property as well. And every time he put in an offer, I would counter him straight away with 15 grand. Just raised him a couple of times. It's like, we can do this all day if you want. Just to knock him out quick. Got the deal for 880. That property today is probably worth 1.5 mil.
You did a lot of renovation works on this property,
but even without the reno, it would be worth that.
Even without the reno, so what would it be worth now with the reno?
Well, I haven't even got it valved, but I did a lot of work on renovating it because I've converted part of the house I could live in, part of I could Airbnb as a holiday rental. It's close to the beach and wineries and all that. But I haven't rented it out because I've got myself in a position where I actually love going down there. No one else is there. Yeah. So I actually enjoy living in there. And
you really are an old man.
I actually can't bring myself to renting it out because I'm like, I don't want to be there and everyone else is coming around, but I should.
It's like when you're away, you should just do like, you individually rent them at that point when you're away. Like that'd be the way to do it.
So anyway, that was the play for that. But that was 5 properties in before buying the primary place of residence.
Yes.
So for people out there, delay gratification, wait,
100%.
Get in.
And right that time. Was, you only bought it as well because of the opportunity. Because I remember you rang me and you go, what do you reckon? And I said, if it was me, I wouldn't do it. And I said, why do you want to do it so bad? And you go, because I know it's a great deal. And we're in COVID and this area is going to explode because there are so many people moving down here now from the city. And I had literally, I had a few deals going through, a few builds going through myself in the south of Sydney. And I was seeing exactly the same thing. And I'm like, man, if you're 100%, then do it. If you're 100% this area is going to explode the way that this area that I was in was exploding, I was like, man, just do it. And But I was like, but if you want to keep investing hard, you just got to roll into the equation. We're probably not going to be able to do that. We're probably that might have to take a bit of a hiatus while you do this thing and get it set up for Airbnb, etc.
Yeah. Which it did in a way. It took a little bit of time while bought the house, then eventually renovated during COVID, during lockdown with my brother-in-law.
Yep.
And I'm not a renovator, folks. I'm useless on the tools. I didn't own my first tool to the age of 40.
Yeah.
Not even a screwdriver.
You look like an IT professional, not a tradie.
Yeah, thank you.
No
I look
worries.
quite intelligent. Thanks.
Yes.
So Dramana's been a good play, and that's in the back pocket. And then we recycled some equity from the first 2 deals you did.
Yes.
And that moved into the next 2 purchases in WA, one being a bread and butter deal, and the other one is supposed to be a manufactured cash flow deal, but I haven't built the granny just yet.
Yeah. And even still, even if we just kept that as a bread and butter, even looking at it, it is a manufactured cash flow deal. But even from a bread and butter perspective, like that deal in itself has gone up. You would have seen over 100,000 growth in the last 12 months. But the bread and butter deal that we did, that first one we executed after Dramana, I remember it clearly because you're like, nah. And then we remember we ran the numbers last night when we had Big JT up as well. And we ran the numbers in that deal. We paid $375. We put about 5 to 10K into it. 5K into a reno, just altered a few things and really value added on this thing at a very, very small budgeted amount. And in the proximity of this thing, you're getting property selling 550 to 600,000. We paid essentially with everything all in 380 grand. We are 12 months on. That is how it was a very discounted deal. It was a very solid deal. Like when we first did the deal, it wasn't worth 380. It was probably worth 420, 430. So it was an excellent deal. But that thing now in 12 months would be 20 to 30, at least 20. It'd be more like 30% up. So it'd be mid to high 500,000s on this asset as well. So it just kind of shows the power. And that market's still got a couple of years run left in it as well. So I think you're going to do exceptionally well out of that over time.
The thing I love about that deal from your side, and this is what I say to clients when they're looking at these kind of deals, is it was rented for $390 at the time. So a lot of investors will look at it and go, nah, that's a shit. But they didn't see the little works that we could do to boost the rent. So
100%.
So 2 months after we bought it, that tenant moved out, did the works, rented for $480 straight away.
$100 increase or just about. Yeah, I know.
Now that property's rented for $520.
How good.
So at the moment, I mean, that's insane, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you could have 10 of them in the portfolio, you'd put them in.
So it doesn't hurt.
And I think that's the beautiful thing. Like they need to be in there. They're a vital part of it. And yeah, man. So that's awesome. We obviously started building that out as well.
So that flowed on to the next deal that we bought also in WA.
So at the moment, we got the first one you bought yourself, and then we got 4 that we did the cash flow deals. We've got Dramana. We've just bought another 2 in WA now.
That second one in WA, just for the numbers, we paid $320 for it. It was rented for $450.
Yeah.
Right? And we can put a secondary dwelling on it, which will probably cost a couple of hundred. So even if you look at those numbers, once executed, that's going to be, let's say, $520.
Yeah.
And the rent for the back, what do you reckon would get? At least $400?
Yeah, you'd be talking $800 to $900 combined rent per week. So you're talking 8 to 9% yield on that deal.
So you'd be happy with that every day of the week.
Quite quality. And we're very early in the cycle. We've still got a lot of growth to run on that area as well.
And the reason why I didn't build just yet the secondary dwelling, because the bank wanted me to put up 50% of the build cost. And I thought, stuff that. I'm going to park that plan.
Yes.
Use some of that money to get into the next deal.
Yeah.
And then I can always circle back to this one.
And the crazy thing as well is because values are still climbing, by the time you circle back to it, maybe 12 to 24 months, build prices may have increased a little bit, but the value of that asset will have increased so much that it will cover essentially the shortfall from that. So you get a reval, get it valved up from the build perspective, fixed price contract, bang, build it at that point.
So here we are. We've got 7 investment properties.
Yeah, 8 in, aren't you?
8, including Dramana. Including the primary place of residence. And a big goal of mine was obviously to get to the 10 mark, the double figures.
Yes.
So that was a big focus.
Have we hit it?
We have, yes. The last 2 deals that we did at the start of this year.
Double didgeridoo.
Yeah.
We're there.
So the start of this year, we went back into Queensland.
Yep.
And price points on those, low 300s.
Yep. Yeah, so essentially, you wanted a bit of. I was trying to get a bit of diversity back into your portfolio. You're trying to hit a few different deals, and looking to spread. Yeah, obviously that diverse piece, and we're going to keep tallying up a few of these different markets that we've kind of put you into now as well. Adding some more bread and butter deals, some more cash flow deals in. Start to really get some good diversity and mix within that portfolio as well. So obviously the first one of those deals was a really solid manufactured cash flow deal over 800 square meters. I think on purchase about 7.5% yield.
8% yield.
Yeah, on purchase.
Yeah.
That's not even with the granny, eh?
No.
And with the granny, you're talking 10% plus. So insane deal on that one. And the bread and butter with the development, like you've literally got a bread and butter. You can chop a block off the back and build a duplex on the back of this other one. Excellent bread and butter with development potential for a future exit strategy, pay down as well. Man, I just think that's going to be super powerful in your portfolio for debt reduction down the track.
And you know the funny thing, when I look at all these investment properties, so there's 9 investment properties here. When I talk to clients that want a nice, pretty property, that first property in Aspley is the nicest looking property in the nicest area that is 10 Ks north of the city. So it's the closest to the city on a big block.
Yeah.
And it's probably the only investment property that I actually live in out of all of them.
That you would live in?
Yeah.
You wouldn't live in one of the grannies?
Well, they're actually, the grannies are pretty cute, aren't they?
Nice.
So, but that Aspley property is the worst performing asset that I own, and I've held it 5 years longer than any other one.
So to confirm that, worst cash, like it's the only negatively geared property in the portfolio.
Now, absolutely, now it is, 100%.
And it's the lowest growth, right?
Even
growth. Though it's blue chip? Even though it's blue chip?
100%.
Can you say it? Can you say that back to me?
Even though this property is blue chip, the biggest lesson, a good property does not mean a good investment. So that property is an absolute lemon. And people say, well, why are you holding it? Well, down the track, I could potentially knock it down, sell off 2 blocks or build 2 big townhouses and see what the numbers are. There's a few things that I could do. But I haven't had to sell it.
At the moment, that's exactly what I was about to say. If there's no need to sell it right now, you'd be better off carrying it. It is in the north of Brizzy. It's close enough to the city. Like if you sell it now, if there's no real need to, you may as well carry it because there is enough potential growth in the tank in the lead up to the Olympics. It would be worth carrying for that next cycle. You missed the peak of when you could have sold it out in COVID. And so because you've missed that peak, there's no point selling it now that it's come back a little bit and not carry it through to the next cycle. So you may as well carry it through the next cycle, whether you develop it or you sell it on as a potential development site. I think you got a few options and a few options open to you around this deal as well for down the track.
So yeah, man, it's that 10th property was a really big sort of mindset goal for me, from the sense that I remember listening to one speaker online or something. I used to listen to his video, a guy by the name of TD Jakes, and he always says, the fastest way to outrun your past is to build a compelling future.
Ooh.
So people that are like, if you want to just let go of the shit, and I never think about that 5 properties by 30 anymore, but that haunted me for ages. Because I just dropped that story purely because I jumped onto a new story.
Yes.
And you have every day an opportunity. And I'm not trying to preach to people. I'm no better than anyone else. This is not about that. If you take the lesson out of it, whatever you want, but if you want to change your story, and everyone's got a story, you have direct influence every single day as to what you do.
Yeah.
And one of the best advice I got from someone, he said, this guy used to be in sales. And he used to work for this Asian Vietnamese guy who didn't speak a lot of English, and he'd have to do sales calls every day.
Yeah.
Right. And he'd come back to the workshop, and the Vietnamese guy would have a form, and there'd be 2 boxes. One was yes, one was no. They had to do like a certain amount of door knocks in a day. And he said, when you come back to the factory, you need to tick 1 box. He goes, there's no line for an explanation.
You either did it or
you either did or didn't. And so then I thought to myself, how good is that for you in your own mind? Don't have the no. There's no yeah buts. Did you or didn't you? Yes or no? Will is not good enough. Did you or didn't you? So then that's
good, man.
All of those things, I just changed my approach on how I looked at these things. And you're only pissing on yourself by thinking you're just making up a story to make yourself feel good. And I feel like, to be honest, dude, doing these podcasts with you, especially at the start, I felt like I was a fraud because I don't know anything to help people. But the one thing that I can bring to people is I know what it's like to have some type of difficulty in whatever, whether you think it's good or bad, and to the resilience to get back up. I think the resilience to keep moving forward, to understand there is a better future, but you need to cut off the excuse, move towards what you can do, and every day ask yourself, what can I do today? Yes or no? Use that as your checklist. Even with training. People say, I can't lose weight. Well, do you eat well? Oh, yeah, but no. Yes or no?
Yeah, beautiful.
Like it just cuts out any ambiguity. Did you or didn't you? I don't care if you did.
Yes or no?
Yes or
it's
no?
Simple. Yeah.
If you use the 2 boxes, yes or no, every decision you make, it cuts away all the bullshit. And then you can reveal, like, be honest.
Yeah.
be honest with yourself. So
that's
for
powerful
me, man,
stuff, Jimmy. That's powerful stuff.
Well, I hope it helps people because I feel like I'm only getting started and I've got some big goals that I want to do, and I'm not going out spending all this. Like I'm still grafting as well, man. My car is like 30 grand. I don't drive a fancy car.
We chatted about this yesterday on the way here. You're like, I'm tempted to go and do it. Like I kind of want to do it.
I could do it.
You could do it, exactly. But you're like, I'm not at that level yet. I'm not at the point where I should be spending 150, 200 grand on a car yet, even though I'd love it. I'm not there yet. I haven't earned the right. And it's like, it's funny, man, because like we'll dive into just to round out the numbers to your portfolio. Actually, I know what they are. Like your 6.5 mil portfolio, doing very, very well for
valuation.
yourself.
Yeah.
Sorry, worth 6.5 mil, right? You essentially have earned the right in a lot of people's eyes, but for you, it's like no, that's not an 8-figure portfolio. Like it hasn't produced a certain amount of whatever for me to be able to earn the right to go and do that. And it's man, I love that because this is exactly the same as what I was. I think my portfolio hit 18 mil before I bought one car, and then I think it was at about 21, 22 before I bought the other. And I literally felt, it's funny you said before about kind of feeling like a fraud. I was the same thing, man. I was like, I don't think I haven't earned the right yet. I don't deserve that yet to go and pull the trigger on that because I haven't got there. I haven't done the things I need to do or I really, really set myself first to do. And that's just going to stop me. And as we've given the example so many times before of people say, oh, they're going to do this or they're going to do that or whatever, but then they get stopped because they have that one little win and they're like, oh, no, I'm going to go buy that thing. I've earned the right. It's like, no, you haven't, mate. What do you really want to do? You haven't earned the right yet.
That's right. I think staying hungry, man.
Yeah, this is where, man, like this isn't just about one deal, two deals. Like if you're dead serious about this and you want to build something significant and something amazing that you can be proud of, you don't take the shortcuts. You don't take the quick little wins when you get them. You need to keep letting this thing compound and build and build. And that's why, mate, we'll check back in a year on your portfolio. Man, I wouldn't be surprised if your 6.5 is sitting at, 6.5, 8.5, 9.5, 10 probably plus mil. In 12 months, I would not be surprised to see you sitting at a 10 mil plus portfolio. And, adding 2 mil a year to that, as it goes between growth and acquisition as well. So,
and if I can say, like some of these numbers, especially when I was starting out, you start thinking 6 mil, it's like, it sounds a bit wanky in a way. And you can easily, if you're listening, thinking, well, I'm never going to do that or whatever. It's not even about the numbers.
No.
It is about your test should be for yourself. When you look at yourself in the mirror, did I have a crack or didn't I?
Yeah.
Whether you win or lose is irrelevant. And if they've done studies, people who've overcome massive challenges or trauma or whatever and have overcome, when they look at what is the highlight of their life, it is that instance. Because that strength is what you keep. Money and the cars and all that, that's all shit, right? So for the people out there, don't get fixated on the numbers. And it's irrelevant. It is about your own story. What are you going to do? How does this relate to you? What can you take out of it? What can you build for your future? It's irrelevant. You've got 50, even if you had 1 million properties, who gives a shit? How does that help the person?
Yeah.
So what can you do in your own scenario that when you sit down at night, you're comfortable, and when you go to bed, you know that you've had a shot?
Yeah, 100%.
Because the regret, man, like
everyone knows when they're underperforming, when they're under-delivering, when they could give so much more. When you're at that point, we all know it. It's a matter of turning that around. It doesn't. Who cares what yesterday was or whatever happened at whatever point? Fucking last 10 years could have been the shittest ever. Look at your journey, man. Of 20 years of essentially flopped experience. By the time you got there, mate, 20 years of all your hard work and sacrifice and your investment and everything, you literally had almost nothing when you started again at 39. If anything, you started with less because you've lost all that money as well. And you start again, and look what you've turned it into in that short, time frame and window as well. So, mate, I hope a lot of people have taken a lot of inspiration from that as well, because it literally is, man. It is an inspiring story. There aren't a lot of people that have big losses like that and go through different scenarios like that and keep pushing and chugging and having a crack at it. So, mate, thank you very much for sharing your journey. Mate, before we wrap up, one quick thing I need to know is portfolio value. Obviously, I gave that away. We're sitting at 6.5 mil at the moment. You and I were chatting at working out all the numbers before. Debt, what are we sitting at debt-wise in the portfolio?
It's just over 4 mil.
Just over 4 mil. So we're sitting on, so you started like 3 years ago with about 250, 300K starting capital.
Yeah, over 300, yeah.
300, okay, 300K, and we've turned it into 2.5 mil net equity in a 2.5 year window.
Dude, I've got a lot to be grateful for, and I'll
Give me
say
a fist
this
bump. Give me a fist bump.
To you. You know how much we love giving each other shit, man. But you have literally changed the direction of my life by helping, and just due to your nature, I love you like a brother, And I am inspired. The reason why I love doing these podcasts with you and doing the discovery calls is because you inspire me about what's possible. And you're 10 years younger than me. And I'm thinking, if you can help someone 10 years younger than you, imagine what they can do. So keep doing what you're doing. And I know we're only just getting started, but we always talk about, when we're talking about business and stuff like that, like people at the cornerstone of what you're doing. And I know you have a passion of helping people. That is the most powerful thing, because that's what gives you that feeling that no dollar value will ever replace.
Yeah, 100%, bro.
It is that inner feeling that you get, that you know that you've done something of purpose, and that's what you're doing. You've done it for me. You've done it for heaps of other people. So keep it up, man, because it's bloody inspiring back at you.
It is an absolute pleasure, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure helping you, watching you on your journey as well. And, mate, pleasure having you in here as well. I know 100%, and the listeners know as well, if you weren't on the bloody potty with me, mate, we wouldn't have the same content. There's the banter, there's the laughter, there's all the rest of the bullshit. But, mate, even the questions and the digging, you know the way I tick, so you know how to...
how to rile you up.
How to give me some things to get it going.
I know which burley you like.
You like that burley. It's not the shit stuff. It's the good stuff. Get me going. But mate, no, honestly, man, like the value that we create, I absolutely love it, and I know the listeners do as well. So mate, it's an absolute pleasure having you on. It's been a pleasure helping you build to this point. I know we're going a lot bigger than what we've got the portfolio to at the moment. But man, I'm excited to review the portfolio again in 12 months and see where we're at.
Thanks, brother.
Jimmy, thank you once again for jumping on. Listeners, I hope you took a lot of value from that. I know we've deep dived in. A lot of people asking you for a long time to share Jimmy's story. He's been, gracious enough to jump on and share it. He's a humble fella. He hasn't wanted to do it for a while, but I finally twisted his arm far enough around that he's been willing to jump on. So Jimmy, mate, thank you once again. Listeners, I hope you enjoyed it. If you took great value out of it, if there's anyone you know that may have been in a similar situation, maybe someone that's lost a lot of money in something else, they're getting back on their feet, they need a bit of inspiration, or if you just think someone would take some hectic inspiration from this and building essentially, a 10 property portfolio. The last 9 of them have been in the last 2.5 years. So if you think someone will take some great value and inspiration from that, please send it on. Keep building that inner circle of influence of people around you, thinking, talking, and acting the same way to help take you to the next level. And if you haven't left us a 5-star review yet, you're a dog. Not really. Well, you kind of are. Leave us a 5-star review if you've been listening to it. And whoever left us that 1-star review, you are a dog because you're listening to it to steal all my tips. And then go leave us a 1-star. Mate, you're a dog.
It's a non-Smith.
Go jump off the... Yeah. Oh, non deserves a slap. Nah, thank you very much for tuning in, guys. You're absolute legends. And until next week, it's another Scouting Australia podcast.